Today's episode of DRL is brought to you by Hella Cocktail Company. My guests don't just come to DRL for me. They also come for the cocktails. Luckily, my friends at Hella Cocktail Company have my back. These guys make amazing mixes, from Bloody Mary to Margarita to Moscow Mule. They also make cocktail bitters, my secret ingredient, and now yours too. It's easy to feel like the best bartender in town when every bottle comes with a simple recipe on it. Hella Cocktail Company, bold flavor, real ingredients, hospitality. Mixing it up since 2011. Shop the collection on Amazon Prime or use code DRL online at hellacocktail.co for free shipping. Hello, my lovely listeners. Welcome back to another episode of DRL, where we're talking everything dating, relationships, and love. I'm your host, Tanisha Wood. I'm seriously out of breath because during the time I was trying to get this podcast ready, when you live in so I don't know if you guys fully understand the format of the show and how I do it, but I generally do it like in my apartment itself or in my apartment building. And I was doing it in the building in one of those community open rooms in which, you know, anybody can be in. And so I'm doing it in one such room. And then all I hear downstairs is like kids running around, and there's like, sounds like somebody's talking on a microphone. So I had to switch location. So I'm legit out of breath. So if you still hear me like, it's because I had to get rid of the voices of children in the background. So welcome. Thank you for coming tonight. Today, I want to welcome Jennae. I met Jennae a couple months ago, and we had some really good conversations around marriage and motherhood and how those things change over time. And she's now sort of working through some of those things. So we're going to talk about what happened, where she's at, and what's going to happen next. Hey, Jennae, how are you?
Hi, I'm great. How you doing?
I'm good.
Awesome.
So like I said, when we had met, we had spoken about just marriage and how that's changed and how your marriage has changed over time and what some of the factors are that has caused some of those changes. So how long have you been married? What's the story?
So we've been married for 7 years. It'll be 8 years coming up. We kind of met like I think most people are meeting these days online. I wasn't looking for anything. He wasn't looking for anything, but we connected. We made that connection online. Then we kind of went out on a date. And for me, I don't know if it's just for the females. I'm like, oh, yeah, I'm going to marry him.
What made you say that right away? How did you know?
Just his swag was a little bit different. A lot of times when people come at you online, it's, hey, baby girl, you looking good, this, that, and the other. And he just came respectfully. He said, oh, I noticed that, you know, you work in the healthcare field, you're a physical therapist. That's awesome to see African Americans persevering and doing their thing. And nobody online had come at me that way. So, I mean, the rest was history. We just started writing back and forth, and then eventually got to the phone and first date, and I was done. After I saw him. He was really handsome.
On the first date?
Oh, yeah.
So you knew, like, right away?
I knew, and the crazy thing about it, I had never really been in a long-term relationship, or serious relationship, I would call it, like ever in my life. So it was just interesting that, you know, I guess that whole pushing 30 thing, and I'm tired of dating around. I really want to settle down, and we kind of have the same interests. So I was like, wham, bam. I mean, what else do I need to do? Sign me up.
So how long did you guys date before getting married?
Well, we dated for a full year, and then we got engaged literally to the day of our first date. And then I think it was 9 months in between that, and then we got married.
So did he have the same feelings on the first date where it was like, hey, let's move forward with this?
Well, originally he said he didn't, but I didn't realize he was joking when he said he didn't. He said he realized the same thing. We just actually had this conversation a couple days ago, and he's like, yeah, I knew. I'm like, but you didn't tell me that. He's like, oh, I was just playing with you. So he said the same thing. His background, unfortunately, he had been married before. He's a little bit older than me, just 5 years, and just a really bad relationship. His ex-wife ended up cheating on him, and all he ever wanted was really just kind of be a family man, get married, have babies. So he was already on the prowl looking for that, I guess.
So for you at the time, that was like great because you're like, you've been hurt and you know exactly what you're looking for now because of that.
Right. I thought so, yeah.
How did the marriage start out?
Well, the marriage started out not like a typical marriage. Like I said, we got married September 2011, and he works for a pretty big corporation. At the time, he was kind of looking to get promoted, so up into management. So we get married in September, and he was just putting in applications to move up in the company. And literally 3 months later, he did get a promotion, but it was out of state. So been married for 3 months, and now he's moving to New York. And we were in Indiana at the time.
And so, were you definitely on board to move, or how did you feel about that?
I was on board because we knew it was probably going to be a temporary move. So I was like, okay, we'll move there. We'll make it happen. It's fine. But for me, my problem, being a physical therapist, I was under contract. And I couldn't, at that point, break my contract because I was getting loan repayment. So it ended up being the realization of, okay, well, I'm not moving there with you. So we're going to literally spend our first year plus separated. We just got married. We didn't have a honeymoon phase. Like, what are we doing here? So it was tough. I would fly back and forth pretty much every other weekend, going to New York to see him and working. So it was not your typical beginning of a marriage.
Do you feel like that had strain on it initially? Like it being so early in the marriage?
Initially, it was kind of fun because it's like, oh, I'm going out of town to see my husband and we're about to get it in and I get to go home and then we're going to come back and get it in every other week. So it was, I guess we got to experience a little bit of the honeymoon phase, but just like the everyday cuddling on the couch or having everyday conversations, we weren't doing that. It would just be via phone. And sometimes it wouldn't be long conversations because he had to get up early to go to work the next day, or I did. So it wasn't the typical thing.
It was like over a year before you guys finally came back together?
Yeah, it was just about the year point. And he let me know he got another promotion back in Indiana, so we wouldn't be moving again. He'd be coming back. So I was super excited about that. So before that, we ended up going, because we didn't go on a honeymoon either. So I think that's why I'm like, oh, we didn't really experience
the honeymoon
that
phase.
Whole honeymoon phase because we didn't go on one. So right before he moved back, we went on like a little anniversary vacay, I guess. And it was really good. So it kind of felt like our honeymoon, or what I thought our honeymoon would feel like. Who knows? I never had one. But so he moves back. And I think the transition was fairly easy, but it was almost a little bit uncomfortable. It's like, okay, I've been basically, married but living single for the past year, and now you're here and you're my husband and we live together, and we hadn't lived together before. So it was a little uncomfortable.
Oh, so you guys didn't live together before getting married or anything. So this was like your first time actually sharing the same space consistently.
Right. We didn't live together and we didn't sleep together before we got married. So.
At all?
At all.
Even a little like...
No, that was one point, and he stopped himself, but he's a devout Christian. He just, obviously we were not virgins when we got married, but it was just one of those things, I was kind of to the point, I want to try something different.
Was that hard?
It
might have literally been hard, but
right? I know. I was like, how do you want me to answer that?
Was the process of that like having to restrain yourself, or knowing that this is the person that you are going to get married to, because you guys were engaged at a year into the relationship. So it's like, especially knowing, we're going to do this anyway.
Right.
Was it difficult?
It wasn't difficult for me, and I don't think it was really difficult for him. Just his belief system, that's what he wanted to do. And I was just from the jump on board with it. But I will tell you, when we did get married, it was a little awkward, just kind of figuring out how everything is going to work and connect. Our wedding night, we just laughed about it because it had been so long, and it was, difficult to have that motion going on.
Were you worried, though? Like I didn't test drive the car before I bought it?
I wasn't, but that's what everybody... Are you serious? You waited for real? What if... what if it wasn't good like that? But I guess I kind of knew like I would be okay. But, going into our wedding night though, I mean, it's super hilarious. Like I'm sitting there, okay, I'm going to go in the bathroom and put on my lingerie. Cause we'd never seen each other naked, and it was just super awkward. So we kind of had to get through that awkward point. But yeah, it was, we found our little niche, if you will.
So how was it living together at that point?
At that point, it was good. I mean, we were finally kind of doing the newlywed thing, and we was getting it in all the time as newlyweds do. And we didn't, at that point, have responsibility of having kids. And, we were just working normal 9 to 5. So we would be home for dinner together, go to sleep together, wake up in the morning together. So it was fun. It's what I had envisioned marriage to be. Mm-hmm. So, yeah, we were good in the beginning.
In the beginning.
In the beginning.
So then when did things start to shift? Like when could you feel it shifting?
After I got pregnant and had my son. So, taken back, my husband, he was in New York, and then a year later he moved back, and literally 2 months later I was pregnant. So it was working. He got me pregnant.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. So we were still excited. It still was fun because, again, there was no other human being we were responsible for. We were just, I was carrying a baby, but we were still, just him and I. So we were happy. Everything was good. Up until the birth of my son, I mean, everything was completely what I had envisioned in my mind that marriage would be like.
And what shifted when you had your son?
I think for me, I maybe call myself a little bit of a control freak. So I had thought that, motherhood was going to be easy. Right. I thought I was going to be a breastfeeding champ. I thought, my baby was going to sleep when I put him down. And for me, I just kind of panicked because I had never, I've been around babies, but I haven't been around newborn babies like that. So, when my son would start crying, I just felt like, immediately, I got to go get him. I got to make him stop crying. And it would be like an obsession, like, he can't cry, or something's wrong with me. I'm not a good mom if I do that. And honestly, I think I definitely was going through some serious postpartum depression and didn't realize it at the time. And I know my husband didn't realize it.
Mm-hmm. So how did he take all that in the beginning? How you being a new mom and sort of how you were so reactive all the time. How was he handling that? So
initially, I think, he was doing just fine with it. He was just very supportive. He knew I was under a lot of stress. So, the first 2 weeks of my son's birth, he took off of work. He was helping. He was getting up in the middle of the night with me. He was trying to kind of ease that responsibility off from me. And then when he went back to work, he would try to basically come home as soon as he could and, just take the baby and kind of, help me that way. But I don't think he just fully understood, but I don't think we really communicated exactly how I felt. Like, I'm nervous being by myself with this baby. I don't know what I'm doing. I don't want you to go to work, but I felt like I couldn't say that to him because he's going to work to provide for his family. And I didn't want to put more stress onto him, because it will project onto him. And it's like, he's already got a lot on his plate. He's working. But in hindsight, I had a lot on my plate too.
You definitely did.
With that newborn baby that wasn't latching on good. And I didn't know what I was doing.
So did he suspect anything was different in your behavior? Anything was going on that was out of the ordinary at that point? Or was he just sort of like, it's new mom stuff, whatever?
Yeah, he was kind of taking it as, it's new mom stuff. It'll wear off. We'll be all good. No worries.
And so how long did that continue, like the postpartum?
I'd say, I guess I felt more comfortable and less postpartum-ish. When my son was probably maybe about 5 to 6 months old, because I went back to work after 3 months, and I will say going back to work definitely helped. You love your kids, but you kind of have to get away from them. When you're with them for 24/7 for 3 months straight on maternity leave, people think you're on vacay. You're just watching all these soap operas, eating bonbons. But let me tell you, that is not true. So I think me kind of getting my separation, my independence away from my son and getting back to work, doing what I felt like I was good at, that kind of helped the situation. And just, both of us, we kind of understood our son more, how he slept and his eating patterns. And, we had him being dropped off at daycare. So we kind of had a routine. So I think we got a lot back on track or on the same team once that kind of happened.
Now, at that point, when you went back to work, how do you feel like the relationship was with you guys? Like, had it gotten better because you had sort of both gotten a handle on it and you were going back to work now, like a little bit more like it was before the baby?
Definitely. Yeah, that baby, because we'll talk about baby number 2 after that. But yeah, so at that point, I'm back at work. We've got a schedule. I do drop off. He just pick up, from daycare, vice versa. We'd have, kind of a teamwork as to, okay, what's for dinner? Who's cooking tonight? So we were in it together, and I felt like our relationship was good again. Mm-hmm. I didn't have to worry about baby waking up every 2 hours. So we were kind of, doing date nights. My mom, lives, when we were living in Indiana, she lived maybe 10 minutes away. So on my birthday, his birthday, we'll bring the baby over. We'll watch the baby for you. You guys go out. So we
had a support system.
Yeah, I had a support system. So we were back kind of where we were before marriage, but now when we got married, but now just with the child that we were parenting together.
I don't have biological children, but one of the things that Chris talks about frequently, he's like, people don't expect or think about how your relationship changes when you do have a child. Like, they sort of think naturally, yes, it does bring you closer together, but you're bringing in a whole nother life, and that's going to impact how you interact with each other. And it's the life that you're sharing together now, and there's all these decisions to be made, and like, that's going to cause some tension, but nobody ever really thinks about or plans for that part. It's really just like, how do we decorate the nursery? Right. And in the same way that I think a lot of people think about weddings, where they're thinking about the wedding and planning for the wedding and not the marriage. I think now that I'm hearing your story, I'm like, it's kind of the same thing with babies, where it's like people are planning for the arrival of the baby, meaning like, here's your crib, here's your car seat, here's your formula, here's this, here's how I'm going to breastfeed, here's my breast pump. But they're not thinking about like, how is this going to emotionally change me, you, us, and the way that we now interact with each other now that there's like a whole life here depending on us. Like, that's a lot of pressure and that's a lot of stress. Like, it's not just about the crib and the nursery. It's so much more. And it's like nobody really accounts for that. Right.
And I can attest for that, especially with my second pregnancy. That's kind of what happened. And that's when I really lost my identity.
So did you guys decide to have a second baby?
We did. Because like I said, I wanted that girl. He got his boy. So give me my girl. I knew the formula. I knew how to get a girl. So
wait, how do you get a girl?
Just depending on, when you ovulate and the time that you have intercourse.
That really has to do with the sex of the baby?
It can, because sperm, the girl swimmers are super strong.
Mm-hmm. Obvi.
Well, duh. So they live longer. So the boy sperm, he won't live as long. So in order to, which we
y'all come in weak, no?
Right? Yeah, y'all come in weak. Y'all may look strong, but getting to that egg, not so much. But if you basically have sex, prior to your ovulation, then there's already going to be girl and boy sperm there. But by the time you ovulate and the sperm goes up to the egg, it's probably going to be a girl because all the boys have died off.
Oh, man. I never knew this.
Well, there you go.
But the more you know. So if you guys are trying to get a particular sex, now you have the formula.
Right. Don't quote me, but...
Okay, so you wanted your girl.
Right. And so I will, I guess, backtrack. That our relationship did change a little bit in terms of the frequency of having sex, because it's about your kid, and I'm just like, I don't want to. Even after having our son, it took a long time. So I commend him for his patience. But, after a while, we kind of got back into the saddle and things were as they were before.
Now, is this, again, not having a biological child, is this because you were tired, or like what is it that makes mothers at that point just be like, I don't want to? Is it like a physical, like I'm still healing? Is it like I'm tired? Is it just I don't have the attraction or the hormones right now? Like, what is it?
I think it can be a combination or different for different people. Definitely hormones, because I know after you have a baby, hormones are just crazy. And if you're breastfeeding, you know, what I learned, you kind of get a little dry in those areas. It should be a little bit more moisturized. So it's not very comfortable.
Got it.
And, you know, just thinking about, oh, what if my baby starts crying when we getting it in? We just going to keep getting it in, or am I going to stop because I'm mama to see what's wrong with my baby?
Yeah, the baby needs to learn patience.
that too, right? Because the husband had patience all that time. So, yeah. So
everybody in this house needs to take their turn having patience.
Right. It's like we're supposed to train the baby, not train the husband. Well, maybe a little bit of training for both, but... Yeah, but baby came first at that point. But after a while, when we were, you know, seeing that he was a little bit more independent and okay, we can, because I said, once we get through that first year, we'll be good again. Mm-hmm. And that was basically what happened. He was a pretty easy breezy baby after I got through, you know, my depression and realizing, okay, he's not going to break. He's not going to die. He's all to the good. So once I kind of got that mindset.
How did you get that mindset?
I think just after, you know, day to day. Doing stuff and my son getting sick and, you know, just normal sick, like ear infection, things like that. And realizing, okay, he's fine. Babies are resilient. They bounce back way quicker than we do. Mm-hmm. So it just kind of gave me more confidence and I was ready for the second one a couple years after that.
Okay.
So I thought, what'd you do?
So you guys planned, like, we're going to have a second baby. You were like, we're going to do it at this time so that I get my girl.
And we did.
And then, so then you got pregnant with your daughter.
Yes, I did. So I had Miss Aaliyah in 2016 in February. So what had happened was, you know, we had planned her. We were excited about it. Everything was going well. Pregnancy was actually a little bit better than, you know, the first. I was really high risk, had complications. But this one basically went as textbook as it could for somebody with high blood pressure. I had a C-section. It was scheduled. So I wasn't kind of going through the anxiety of, what's going to happen? Because I need to know the plan. What's the plan? When's her birthday? What time? Like, what we doing when I'm going home? So just the second time around, I think I had more confidence and breastfeeding went a little bit better. So I was fine until we got home.
What happened when you got home?
I just lost my ever-loving mind. Again, just self-doubting, like doubting myself. Okay, well, now I got 2 kids because I thought this little girl was going to be easier than the little boy. And I was to the point where, okay, well, I got a 2-year-old now and I got a newborn. Somebody's going to be crying. Somebody's not going to get their needs met immediately. Mm-hmm. And I was fine with that. But then just kind of going through the everyday routine again by myself, home for 3 months, while my husband's at work.
Now with 2 kids.
And we won't even talk about his mother-in-law. I love her to death, but she had moved in with us a little bit during that time.
To help out?
And I've got my mom down the street to help out. And I think just having 2 grown women in the house with different viewpoints on things really got the relationship between my husband and I rocky.
So it was like, well, your mom said this, my mom said this, I don't want to do this, so it's like your opinion, his opinion, and both your mom's opinion around these 2 kids. And it's like, at the end of the day, like, this is not as much help for me as it should have been because, like, I feel like I'm, like, choosing now.
Yeah, and he had a major issue with that because we got to the point, me and his mother-in-law, like, we had always had a wonderful relationship when she wasn't in the house. Take tip. When she didn't live with me. But when she moved in, we just, went 2 different ways. And it got to the point where I would tell my husband, well, you need to tell your mom this. And then she would tell her son, you need to tell your wife this. So we were talking to each other through, my husband. And he was just like, well, I don't know what you want me to do. Do you want me to tell her to move out? What do you want me to do? Because I can't continue living like this.
So what exactly was the issue? Like, what was she doing or not doing?
Helping, I guess, in the way I envisioned help. She would always be in her room and I guess my expectation is you're going to come down, at least say good morning. Do you need anything? Do you need help with anything? But I found like later on, she's like, just tell me what you want me to do and I'll do it. And I'm like, I don't want to have another kid where I'm writing lists of what to do. And then eventually she just felt withdrawn from me just because I knew I was not being super nice to her. I just had a baby. I was really stressed. And then she was scared to come out the room. And it just...
Dang, you had the lady locked up in her room.
Girl, I had her on lockdown, but she had... And that's the thing that upset me because she ended up getting like a refrigerator and a microwave, had a TV in there.
Oh, so she was like, I don't need a reason to leave this room.
Yeah, she didn't have to leave. I mean, it was comfortable up there for her. And
she turned it into a decked out dorm room.
She did. She even had a hot plate. And I think that's when I snapped.
She's like, oh, I cook full on meals now.
Right. Like, I don't have to come out this room. I just have to go to the bathroom and I can run back in there. But she had her own bathroom too. Love her to death. But that's kind of when it set me off. I'm like, why did she move here to help and she's not helping? And both of these babies are crying. And at that point I had cut down to 3 days a week working. So I'm 2 of the days I'm home with the 2 kids. And it just, I couldn't handle it.
Was she the type where you could just leave them with her? Like if you're like, hey, I'm going to work right now or I have to go do this or that. Was she helpful in that way?
I could, but again, I didn't feel comfortable because I wanted to control the situation. I wanted to know what was going on. So part of it was just me not allowing myself to accept the help. And thinking about it now, it didn't matter what form the help was as long as it was help. And I didn't get that at that point. So we weren't really speaking. And, me and my husband, we just were getting more and more distant because you can cut the tension with a knife. He could feel the tension.
Because he feels like he has to choose somehow.
Yeah, choose. And he wasn't choosing right, I felt like.
And at the same time, your mother was also there.
Yeah. And my mom, of course, me projecting on her. Now she's got issues with his mom.
Because you're like, Mom, I can't believe this lady and da-da-da. Right. And so she's hearing all the horrible things.
Yeah, which probably wasn't completely true. But again, I was definitely going through postpartum depression. I was having more symptoms, actually, of postpartum depression that I didn't even realize were symptoms. I went to my doctor one day for a postpartum checkup. He's like, how are you doing? I'm like, I'm good. He's like, are you sleeping at night? I'm like, I got a newborn. Of course I'm not sleeping. Are you sleeping at all? No. Are you scared? Are you having dreams, weird dreams? I said, actually, I am having dreams and I feel like I'm scared all the time. Somebody's going to break into my house and kill me. Like legit, that's how I was feeling. That's a classic postpartum when you're just scared for no reason and down on yourself and things like that. Mm-hmm. So
did the doctor recognize that?
He did. He pulled it out of me because I was, of course, I'm fine. Everything's good. But he was the same doc I had before. And he's like, no, you weren't like this when you first had your son. You seemed a little bit more up. And right now you don't even seem like you're happy that you got your girl. And I'm like, well, maybe I'm not.
So what did he suggest to move forward?
He suggested, of course, there's support groups and places you can go and, phone numbers and things like that. But I was so out of it that, I didn't want to leave the house. It was classic depression. Like, I don't even want to get up, take care of my kids, let alone get up, get myself together and go to some support group and then come back home and then deal with these kids. So I just kind of, again, shoved it under the rug like a lot of people do. Mm-hmm. And I know I'm not trying to be, I guess I am going to be a spokesperson right now for postpartum depression because it is something serious. So
but no one talks about it.
Nobody talks about it. So my advice to anybody out there is to seek help, talk about it, look for even a support group online. Just to kind of get your feelings out, because if you're holding it in, you're just going to have a mental breakdown. So I had my daughter, and then 6 months later, I ended up having a hernia surgery. And literally the day before my surgery, or 2 days before my surgery, because my husband was still seeking, promotions, and usually they're going to be out of state. So he had been applying within the company that he works for.
And you were good with that?
I was good because we ultimately knew that we wanted to move to Texas. That was something we had always talked about, even when we were dating. We want to get down south. We want to move. Texas, Atlanta, one of those areas. So, I knew and I was supportive of it. I guess on paper I was supportive of it. Maybe I wasn't fully, but this is what we wanted. But literally 2 days before my surgery, hey, James, you got the job. Can you be down here in 3 days? And mind you, so now I have a 6-month-old daughter. I just had surgery. I can't lift anything. I can't do anything. I'm living with my mother-in-law, who now I have to depend on because I had this surgery. And
So it's just you and her at this point?
And the 2 kids. And I couldn't immediately move down again because of the surgery, and just because with my job, I have to, because it's healthcare, sometimes you have to give 90-day notice. So
right.
I had to give 90 days. So I was stuck there for 3 months either way by myself. So I had my surgery. He was able to stay maybe a week. And then he had to literally just hop on a plane and fly to Dallas. And we were separated again.
How did you feel about that?
Part of me was definitely excited because I knew, okay, my future is to ultimately be in Dallas. We're going to be reunited, be together, and everything's just going to be rainbows and unicorns, and everything's going to fall in place, and life is going to be phenomenal. But it was not.
Did you feel a little bit resentful that he couldn't stay or didn't stay longer, even though you knew he had to?
Initially, no, because I was like, okay, do your thing. This is a new position. This is obviously more money. This is what you've been working towards. So I was happy. But yes, I was resentful because he had to leave. And there'd be times where he'd call, hey, babe, what are you doing? What do you think I'm doing?
Taking care of these kids.
I'm taking care of these doggone kids. What you mean, what you doing? And, oh, I'm tired. I'm going to go take a nap. Well, at least somebody gets to take a nap. Don't call me saying these things, or I'm going to go to the movie. I don't want to hear it. And then he would get upset at me. Well, what you get mad for? Because I'm here taking care of these 2 kids by myself, and I've got quote unquote help, but she's in her room. She doesn't want to come out.
With a hot plate. No.
With a hot plate, setting my house on fire. So that's kind of when things really started getting a little rocky.
What did he say about that when you would say, I don't want to hear all that about you taking naps and going to the movies and any sort of leisure?
Yeah, he'd be like, you know what, Jennae, that's not cool. That's not cool. And, he would just kind of leave it at that because he understood, but he didn't think it was right.
I mean, I guess I see it from both sides. Mm-hmm. Like, I see where it's like, no, I'm literally going through hell right now doing this by myself. I do not care to hear about the movie you saw the other day and the nap you're about to take. But then on the other hand, like, what is he supposed to do?
Right. Because he doesn't really know anybody here. He's bored and lonely. Like,
right.
He's living a bachelor life, but he's not a bachelor.
Right.
He's not going out because he's focused on this new demanding job. So, of course, now with a clear mind, I can look back and say, well, dang, Jennae, you should have been a little more.
Right.
You're the wife, you're supportive, you're supposed to be. And I know I wasn't.
So after 3 months, you guys got through that.
Yes.
And then you were able to come back together. Now it's a family again with you, him, the 2 kids, and the mother-in-law didn't come with you, I assume.
She did not. No. Okay. She took her butt back home. Hallelujah. But I love her now.
So how was it then when you guys reconnected again?
Initially, again, it was a little rocky because I'm in this totally new place. I think I ended up flying in like on a Friday. So it was a weekend, but I get there and of course my house, or a tiny apartment now, going from a 4-bedroom house to a tiny apartment, is in utter chaos, boxes everywhere. And I couldn't function because I'm like, I thought you said every day I called, you said, oh yeah, I'm unpacking more and I'm unpacking. Oh, he got that Xbox unpacked, of course. But it was just, I couldn't deal with it. But, slowly but surely getting the place together and, making it work. But I started to really get stressed out because, mind you, I just quit my wonderful PT job back in Indiana. And now I go from being basically full-time healthcare worker to full-time, stay-at-home mom. Because we had agreed, okay, I'm going to do this for a while and then until you can kind of get established, get used to your role. Because, it was a busy role. He'd leave the house at 6 a.m. and probably not get home until 7 or 8 p.m. Mm-hmm. So I was trying as much as I could to kind of make that work, but that's a huge shift. And there'd be days where he'd come home and I'd be like, James, I can't deal with these kids. Like I love them, but something's got to change. I can't kind of hint like I'm not okay. But again, I wasn't being,
because you weren't getting that break at all.
I wasn't getting that break. the kids were, I think my son was almost 3 and my daughter at that point was 9 months old, so they're just being kids. They don't understand that, okay, can I just have 5 minutes to myself? Can I just go to the bathroom without seeing hands under the door? Can I just, have some personal time to myself? And I couldn't. And I would, really start resenting him for that. Like he'd come home, because again, part of it was him. He'd come home, hey, how you doing? I'm good. And then he'd be like, well, do you mind if because he was on a special diet because he was trying to lose some weight. I'm going to eat real quick. And I was like, no.
Now, take these kids now.
Do you not realize I've been home for 12 plus hours with these 2 kids and they've been fighting, they've been crying nonstop. And so I was just really in my head and it got to the point where I think that's when I saw a real change in our relationship. Like we're kind of passing in the night. Like he'd come home as soon as he walked in, I wouldn't say anything. I'd go in my room and close the door because that's the first moment of peace I could have all night. And, we weren't having sex then. We were just kind of laying in the bed together, kind of, I used to say we were kind of co-parenting, just kind of living with each other, but we weren't on the same page. We weren't really acting as a husband and wife.
And were you guys talking? So would you say, when he came home, like, today was rough, like, she was doing this, he was doing that, and, like, it was rough, and here's how I was feeling? Or were you just like, I need the break? And I don't even want to talk about it because I've had to deal with it all day.
Yeah, I was kind of like that. Initially, I'd be like, oh, these kids, this, that, and the other today. And he seemed more invested in hearing about it. But over time, I think he was feeling the resentment and he was feeling me pushing him away. So he would kind of just stop initiating conversation with me because he knew as soon as he got home, all she wanted to do was go in that room. And so we were barely talking, only if we had to. And that was not very often.
Did you guys have any breaks together from the kids, like a date night or anything like that? Because, I know you said your family was back in Indiana at this point, and you moved, so I don't know that you had a support system when you moved, but did you have an opportunity to have a night off with just you guys?
A what now? A date night? Is that what they call it?
It's this thing where there's like a husband and wife sometimes go out without their children.
Oh, that's a weird concept. Initially, no. My husband does have some family out here in Dallas, but they weren't really close family members that, again, me wanting to control. I don't know who these people are. I'm not leaving my babies with these people. But he didn't even really feel comfortable reaching out at that point.
Got it.
So again, we just were not on the same page. I was just miserable, and I think I was losing my identity. And, he was so stressed from work, and I felt like I can't bother him with this because he's got stuff going on. Mm-hmm. So, it was really tough. And one day I had to tell him, we were laying down in the bed, and I'm like, I'm not okay. Like, I'm to the point where I potentially thinking about possibly hurting myself because I'm so unhappy. Mm. And that's when he kind of woke up like, oh, okay, well, let's get help. Let me do this and do that. And he stayed home from work and everybody was really understanding. And he was helping a lot more. And he was being more supportive. But, at that point, I was still pushing him away. And it's funny. I don't want to say that, maybe I'll say I was in an emotional relationship with somebody else at that time because, of course, the grass is always greener. I have, somebody that I've known for a long, long time that I thought him and I were going to end up together, and we never really got over each other. Mm-hmm. And, of course, we started, texting each other.
It all starts with a Facebook like. No?
Right. So it was like I was going to that person for my problems, and he was coming to me with his problems.
Was he also in a relationship?
He was. He was married as well. Mm-hmm. Like I said, I've known him for 20 years.
So at that point, like, he's sort of your support system when you're going through all this because you're not really talking to your husband about it.
Right. And, looking at that now, I don't think that was the best thing, but that's what was keeping me going at that point. That's what was keeping me a little bit level-headed, just getting encouragement from somebody else, and kind of talking to somebody else who was going through not the exact same situation, but just marital issues. And then, of course, it brings you closer to that other person when you should be, you know, with your partner or your husband or your wife. So,
did you ever tell your husband about that?
I did not. I thought about it because at one point I was so spiteful that I wanted to be like, you know what? Guess what? I'm not, my needs are not being met. So, you know, if you can't meet my needs, then maybe somebody else will. I'm glad I know, right?
That would have been, that's hard to come back from.
Right. So I'm glad that even in my not rational state, I didn't do that because that would have broke his heart. And I mean, he is a good man. He works hard. He's a family man. He genuinely loves me. So I wouldn't want to hurt him like that.
How long did that emotional relationship go on?
It was kind of on and off. I'd say probably we've been here for about 3 years, so maybe about 2-ish, kind of on and off. So it's like we would have a conversation, and then 2 or 3 months we wouldn't really communicate, and then 2 or 3 months. So it would kind of be on and off. But it was always one of those, oh, I wish you the best in your marriage. And yeah, like we're trying to solve each other's problems when really we're like, oh, but I think I want to be with you type of thing because the grass is always greener. So it was an interesting dynamic. I'll say that.
Do you feel like you're over that now?
I feel like it's crazy with that person because I feel like, I don't know if I want to say this because I don't know how I feel about soulmates. I don't know if you have multiple, but I feel like he was somebody that we could have had something good, but it just, I guess the timing was never right with us. You know, he was either single or I wasn't or vice versa. Because I even remember when he found out I got engaged, it was like, are you sure? This is pretty fast. Are you sure this is what you want to do? And, you know, things like that. So I still think about him from time to time, for sure, because he was somebody that was a really close friend as well as, you know, we did have a past in college. So just, I guess, thinking about the past and what could have been, what should have been, or what would have been. And
grass is always greener.
Right. So, yeah, those are always hard situations. So I say he's in my heart, but he's not my heart. That's a good way to
put it.
Or at least tell myself that. But, yeah, there will be no crossing boundaries in that way physically or anything like that.
So did you finally end up talking to your husband about some of these things?
About him,
like the
or
stuff
just about
that you about the stuff that you were telling the college ex that you were feeling, and just the things you were going through and everything that was on your mind, and you know, just all the things that you were venting to him. Did you eventually end up sharing all these things in depth in the way that you did with him?
Eventually I got there. Cause I would, you know, my girlfriends would be like, you need to sit down and have a conversation with him. And even this other party, he was telling me, you need to, you know, sit down and talk to your husband. And so he was encouraging me, but I think with a ulterior motive of encouragement, hoping that I didn't, but I did one day finally muster up all the energy to let him know, look, I'm not happy. Like, I lost myself. Like, all I do is wipe noses, wipe butts. That's all I do all day. I am not in a professional career anymore. Like, that was hard to give that up. Like, I sacrificed that to get us here. And I'm not happy. And I just, like, I don't know if I was going through identity crisis. I'm like, who am I? Like, for the past 2-3 years, I just have been a zombie, living this life, waking up every day, dealing with these kids. He goes to work, cleaning the house, cooking dinner, and waking up and doing it all again the next morning. And I realized, like, a part of me, like, once I was getting out of my depression, I'm like, I want to go out. I want to, meet up with my girlfriends from time to time. I want to have a few drinks. I'm not going to party like I did in college because I wouldn't survive that type of partying. But I did want to go out. And he was seeing a totally different personality from me because he had never really seen me in that way, that he felt like he was losing me. And he did say at one point...
He had never seen you in what way?
Kind of going out and kind of living life a little bit. Because I will say, we just kind of, when we got into our marriage, it was just kind of a thing. Like, it was kind of boring. It was exciting initially, but then I think after having the kids, it was just, again, like everyday routine. Like, there's nothing different from each day. We're not going out on dates. I'm not going out because I don't have many friends here in Dallas. All my friends are back home, and he didn't have many friends. So we just were in the house all the time, and he'd want to, let's go to the movies. Let's go here and there and there. And I'd be like, nah, I don't feel like it. I don't want to. But
now, why didn't you, even though you did have the desire to get out and do stuff, why didn't you want to do those things with him at that point?
Because I think I was still harboring feelings of resentment. And I just grew apart from him. I felt like thinking about it when we were dating, like that was my best friend for real. People say, oh, you marry your best friend. Like I did marry my best friend, but the person I saw and the person he saw, we were not best friends. So why would I want to hang out with you? And we not even friends at this point. Like,
I don't even like you like that.
Let me just go out and hang out with other people. So that would be why, like, I would seek to go out on my own or go out with, some of my girlfriends I met. Like, why don't you stay home and watch these kids? And I think that was part of it. Like, I put in my time and it's your turn. It was almost like I was punishing him, which, again, in hindsight, that wasn't right. But I felt like that made me feel better just knowing that, oh, well, he's at home right now and he's wiping butts and he's dealing with these kids peeing on the floor. And
you get to see some of the things I go through, and you get to go through it so you fully understand what it is to do what I do. And
appreciate it more. And I think in those moments he did, like, because he would take that for granted initially. And we've had conversations before. He's like, yeah, I didn't realize how hard it was to do X, Y, Z. And wow. And I'm like, yeah. Not home eating bonbons every day. Not doing it.
You know what's interesting about motherhood? I think once people become mothers, it can take over their whole identity.
Yeah.
But nobody sees it as a bad thing, right? Mm-hmm. So if I were to start dating a new guy today and everything I did or all I talked about and everything I thought about in my life revolved around him, like, all my friends and my family would be like, that's not healthy. You need other things in your life. Your entire life can't just be about this man and what's going on with him and what he wants and what he's thinking. And, we would say that was an unhealthy relationship to be in. But when it comes to motherhood, it's the same thing, but people think, well, that's how it's supposed to be.
Right.
So nobody would ever call it out as, well, that's unhealthy. You know what I'm saying? So
Absolutely.
That's how I think we think of a good mom is, well, her whole life. Have you ever heard somebody say that? She just loves those kids. Her whole life revolves around them.
Basically.
And it's like, that's actually not healthy for your entire life to revolve around any one thing or person. And I think the healthiest and best way to do motherhood is to have other things so that you can fully appreciate your children. But it's like, have you ever seen somebody's like Instagram bio where they'll put like such and such as they'll be like Taylor's mom. And it's like, but who are you when you're not Taylor's mom? You know what I mean? Like who are you? And like when you just consider yourself a mother, and that's all it is, I think you like you said, like you start to lose a sense of like, well, who am I outside of this situation with this little person? Like, what do I like? I don't like wiping butts all day. There's got to be something else I like doing, but I've only seen myself now in this way, and other people see me in this way, and other people put me on a pedestal because of this. So like this has now become my whole identity.
Right. And you just, I think, feel like you got to play that role even if you don't feel that way. Oh, you're such a wonderful mother. You just love your kids so much. And I just see all the dedication. Yeah, well. Clears throat.
It's so funny. Like people have just this idea in their heads. Like they'll see when it's like they'll see like a mom and dad out and a couple of kids, and they're just like, "You guys are just so adorable. This is amazing." And you'll be like, "I can't stand this child right now or this man."
Or when my kids act up and I'm just like, oh, stop. And as soon as we get in the car, did not tell you not to do that. I could beat your butt now because we in the car. And these people are not watching me. But yeah.
So how did he take it once you opened up about all of it? Like all that you'd been just not sharing over the last couple of years, really? Like how did he take it when you just sort of unloaded it all?
It was a lot to handle because I even told him, because I wasn't sleeping at night. I'm like, I'm not sleeping.
Were you guys sleeping in the same bed?
We were in the same bed, but it was like, we used to spoon and all that stuff. And don't touch me. Like, this is your side. It's a king size bed. Okay. There's plenty of room for us to be in this bed without any physical contact. Like, it was really bad. Like, if he would be asleep and accidentally, hit my leg with his arm, I would just move over immediately.
Wow.
I know. Really bad.
So he really had to recognize, though, with behaviors like that stuff is really shifting.
Yeah. And I think maybe he was just scared of what was really going on. Because, I told him, I said, there's some nights where I get up in the middle of the night looking at apartments for me by myself. I think
studios,
studio, no extra bedroom. I'll get a, mattress or something for my kids if they're going to spend the night. Like, you can have the kids. I mean, because I had thought it all out in my head. Okay, we can co-parent. We're completely fine doing that because this is what we're doing anyway, living under the same roof. We're not really having conversations. We're not really having an intimate relationship. We're co-parenting right now. So I'll go get I found an apartment in the same building right down the hall around the corner that was vacant. I'm like, okay, I'm going to rent this 1-bedroom apartment out. And don't worry, I'm going to come over for dinner. I'll cook dinner. We'll have family dinners. And then as soon as these kids are in bed, I'm going back over there and we can try this out for 3 or 4 months and
I'll get a month to month.
Right. And we'll just kind of go from there. And
you actually brought this idea to him?
Yeah.
What did he say?
I don't think he knew what to say initially, but I told him, I'm like, I just don't even know if we can stay together. Like, I never imagined myself saying divorce. And he, at that point, kind of jumped, made it clear. He's like, you are the woman that was made for me. We just need to do what we need to do to work this out. I don't want this. I don't want a divorce. This hurts to hear this, but I'm glad that I'm hearing it because I'll do whatever I need to do to fight for our marriage.
Now, what made you go from, it seems like sort of a leap, right?
If you would look at it from the outside in, yeah.
From the outside, yes. It looks like, okay, you're stressed out, you're a new mom. Mm-hmm. That's completely understandable. Like, there's some postpartum depression there. Mm-hmm. Like, there's a lot happening. But how did in your mind go from, because I guess some people might look at it and think, well, the kids aren't going to be, toddlers forever.
Right.
So in your mind, how did you go from this? Did you think just this won't get better? What made you think? Because I guess if you thought divorce, you thought maybe this is just won't get better. What made you think like this can't and won't get better? Like, even when the kids are grown, this won't get better.
Just, I guess, multiple conversations my husband and I had together where I would kind of tell him, I feel this way about that, or I, need more help around the house. And, yeah, I'm going to do it. But he'd say he'd do X, Y, Z, but I wasn't seeing it in his actions. And then again, that's going to cause me to push him away more. That's going to cause more resentment. And then eventually push me away. And of course, my friend back in college, was having marital issues, and I was obviously like, if you're not happy, you need to get out of it. You either need to work it out or be happy. Like, we would tell each other that. And so I think maybe getting some insight from another person that happened to be a male that I happen to have had relations with in the past and feelings for, that can kind of influence it as well. So I shouldn't have let that outside source kind of get in my ear, but I will say, again, that outside source did help me to finally confront my husband and talk to him. Mm-hmm. So,
and when you finally talked to him, what did you say?
What I just said, that I, been thinking about. Well, you
said you were thinking about getting an apartment and divorce.
Right. But I will say, I guess, because even leading up to that, I'd be like, man, we have problems. We need to figure this out. We need to, I'm not happy. Like, I would tell him again, I'm not happy. And it would be the same thing, like a revolving door. I'm not happy. Something's got to change. Okay, well, we can do counseling. I'll do whatever we can to make this work. You're talking the talk, but we weren't getting to counseling. Or can you call the counselor for me? Or can you set up the appointments? And in my mind, I just felt like he's not making an effort because he won't even take 10, 15 minutes to call the insurance and set up an appointment for us. And I'm a stubborn person. I'll admit that. And it was to the point where I'm not doing it. I'm not doing it. I'm tired of doing everything. I do everything. This is the one thing that I want you to do to show me that you are definitely invested in fixing this, because this is all the way messed up. But he just, it would be the same cycle. I'm not happy. This is not working. Oh, yeah, let's do counseling. Set it up. And then he got to the point, okay, I'll set it up. But it just never happened. So he looked at me one day and he's just, again, the same conversation, like, I'm not happy. Like, we need to do something. This is not going to work. And he's like, sometimes I feel like you don't love me as much as I love you. And in that moment, I was like, that would be an accurate assessment.
Damn.
I know.
You said that out loud?
I did. And I know that hurt him. And yeah, I think that was probably the most hurtful thing that I had agreed with.
Yeah, I hurt hearing. I was like, ouch, like that hurt.
They're probably like, how this lady been married for 7 years? How she got a man talking to him like that? Yeah, I wasn't right in the head. I'll admit that. But he made an assessment of what he was feeling and seeing, and I just agree. You're right. I probably don't.
What did he say after you said that?
I think it just got silent, and I think we kind of took a break talking. I think I may have gone into another room. But it was crazy because there'd be days where I'm like, okay, well, I want to make this work. And let's, I'd wake up in a good mood. I'd wake up, okay, I'm going to be positive. And, because again, a lot of it can be about your attitude and your perception of things. If you go into things with a negative attitude, or if I'm waking up already, then, I'm going to project that on my husband. So there'd be days where I'd be like, okay, well, I'm just, for the sake of, my marriage and this man that loves me and this man that I do love him. I definitely do. And for this family, I'm going to make this work. But again, it would just be always something to set me off. And yeah.
So where are you guys at now?
We are definitely a lot better because, like I said, we had that hard conversation. And I did kind of tell him, like, I've lost my identity. And, one day I just said, this is what I need to do. And he was like, what do you need to do as long as it's not moving out? I'm like, okay, this is what I need. I need just some independence. Yes, we need to go out maybe, once a week or every other week or even once a month just starting off. But I need to have time like with my girls to go out and just, have fun and not worry about the responsibilities of marriage and a child or children. And you need to get some guy friends and you need to just kind of go out and do whatever bros do. And, we raise our family together and we just make it work. And I'm just like, you got to help more with housework. And, I'm doing it all right now. And, when he took that in, he was in agreement. He's like, yeah, we can make this work. We can do this. And if we still need counseling, we'll go to counseling. I'll make the appointment. Yet it's not made. But I feel like just something has shifted in my mind. I guess it's almost as if somebody put their hands on my shoulder, just shook me like, girl, what the hell are you doing? This is your husband. This is the man that you married. This is your family. He loves you and all the crazy that comes behind you. Nobody else would deal with that. So get yourself together. And I feel like that's what I'm doing right now. So I have more independence. I just kind of have my time and my separation. I currently work from home now, which is good, but it was to the point where work from home still meant that I'm cooking and cleaning and this and that and that and that. But he now helps more with the chores. And he definitely does a night routine with the kids. He does the baths. I usually do the, morning routine, getting them ready. He helps with that now. He helps to pack my son's lunch. So I guess just in seeing the effort, it kind of has shifted my mindset. Like, okay, he really is trying, so I need to try too. Mm-hmm. It can't just be one way. So
it sounded like once you finally shared everything, mm-hmm. he got the gravity of it. Like he maybe didn't get it before. It kind of sounded like before mm-hmm. it was like, I'm not happy.
But I wasn't explaining what wasn't making me
right.
happy.
Like, what does that mean when one says, I'm not happy? Like, mm-hmm. I'm not happy with this guy today. I'm not happy with, like, what is it specifically? Mm-hmm. But once you were really like, no, these are my thoughts. Right. This is why I'm not happy. Then he began to understand and make small shifts from the things that he could do on his own. Yeah,
because he would even ask, okay, so what do I need to do to make you happy? Or what's going to make you happy? And my answer would just be, I don't know. But when I finally told him, he's like, well, damn. That was a lot, but we can make that work. And I mean, like I said, we're not perfect. There's never going to be that quote unquote perfect marriage out there, but definitely our marriage is a little bit more lighthearted now. We're able to just kind of laugh things off. When our kids are driving us nuts, we just kind of go with it. And I feel like we're more on the same team as, not on the same team now.
Mm-hmm. So what advice would you give to somebody who is maybe in the position that you were in, like, say, last year?
Mm-hmm. A few things. Just be honest, be open. I know that sounds so easy, but obviously based on my story, it's not. But you have to, be direct and be honest with your partner. If something's not making you happy, if something is bothering you to your core that you just want to explode, you need to find how to say that in a nice way. Or maybe, write it down first before you actually think about saying it, because it may not be the nicest thing to say. And you just need to, I guess, focus on the end goal, figure out what you really want. You can't be going back and forth. Oh, I don't want to be with you. Yes, I want to be with you. Oh, I don't know what to do. You got to maybe sit down with yourself and really look within yourself and figure out, okay, I'm unhappy and I do want to end this, and you need to make the moves to do it. Or I'm unhappy, but I love this person. I want it to work. I know right now it sucks, but it's going to get better because we're going to talk about it. We're going to work through it.
And how is he feeling right now?
He's doing a lot better because he can just feel the lightness in the house now. Like, we laugh together, we talk to one another, and I think he's still dealing with a lot of stress from work, but now I feel like he can come home and not have to worry about the stress of what kind of wife am I going to get tonight? Is it going to be happy Jennae? Is it going to be angry Jennae? Is it going to be quiet Jennae? He can just come home to the Jennae that I guess he fell in love with and that he married.
Now, what advice might you give to moms who are feeling overwhelmed? So whether that be postpartum depression or just generally feeling like, oh my God, I have to do it all.
Mm-hmm. Number one, you're not alone. So I think, again, find an outlet, find somebody to talk to. Because one of my girlfriends, we both were pregnant at the same time. So both pregnancies, our kids are the same age. And I would look at her like, oh, she's the perfect mom and she's just got it going on. Why can't be like that? Why can't I be like that? And she would look at me in the same way. We never talked about how we both were miserable and dealing with postpartum depression. And so you got to have somebody to talk to outside of your home. And, there's support groups online, just, postpartum support groups on like Facebook or whatnot. You can just kind of link up with other people. And even if it's just venting, you can do that. And again, just be verbalize. Sometimes you just have to be straight out. Like, I need this done and then that done and X, Y, Z in this order. Because sometimes people need instruction. They don't need vague, well, the house needs to be clean. Okay, I'm going to need you to go in that bathroom, scrub them toilets. After you're done scrubbing them toilets, go in that kitchen and put them dishes in the dishwasher. Some people need that. And you just have to be open to the fact that people process in different ways and just, work it out that way.
So what's next for you guys?
Well, hopefully some sort of vacation away without our kids.
It's so important.
It is. You don't realize it until you not getting that time, that how much you need that time.
And it's just so easy, like I said before, for your life to revolve around your kids.
Right.
And that's why you see a lot of people, like, as soon as their kids graduate high school, they get divorced.
Exactly.
And it's like, this is really all you guys had holding you together. Like, you gotta have each other. And the thing that brought you together in the first place,
right.
Before the kids, you guys were together. Like, what brought you there?
Exactly. You have to basically take it back to the beginning, back to the basics. What got you there will keep you there.
Well, I'm glad that you guys have reconnected.
Me too.
And are on an upward trajectory. And hopefully having a vacation alone and some time together soon.
We will.
And I'll babysit if you need.
Okay. Don't tell me that, girl, because them kids will be at your door tomorrow.
Here they are.
You said it.
For 24 hours.
This was awesome.
Thank you so much, Jennae, for coming on and sharing. Yes. And I really appreciate it because a lot of the things that you talked about today, a lot of people don't talk about. Right. And I know that a lot of people are facing some of the same issues and they just are silent about them. Mm-hmm. And what happens when we're silent about things like that is you automatically feel like you're the only person going through it. And when you feel like you're the only person, you feel so alone and like there's no one I can talk to. And then those emotions that you're feeling only get worse because now you feel alone and you're the only person who's doing this and going through this. And it's just not true.
No, it's
and I think that stigma, particularly around postpartum depression, needs to be broken because a lot of people go through it. I hear a lot of friends tell me that personally. They don't speak about it publicly, but they do. And it's hard and they feel like they don't have anybody to talk to. So just please know that if these are things you're going through, whether that be with having a new baby or in your marriage and feeling like there's been a shift since your kids, like you're not alone. Plenty of people are going through the same thing. And once you share that with people, they'll share it with you and then you'll have a support system. So just be open about those feelings and issues.
Mm-hmm. And I think the last thing I do want to say is it's okay to ask for help. I was one that I would never ask for help or I'd never accept help, but especially when you have a new baby, you're vulnerable. You don't know what's going on. You don't know what's up, down, left, or right. So somebody's offering to bring you food or somebody's offering to clean up your kitchen, even if it's not the way that you do it, take that help. That's something I've learned. Now when people volunteer, say, oh, okay, you're going to do that? Okay, come on. Just like I didn't forget you said you babysit. Like,
I keep my word.
Okay, all right. You guys heard it.
It's on record.
Yeah, don't edit this out.
Well, thank you again. Like I said, I very much appreciate it. And please reach out to me and let me know what you guys think of the show at Tanisha Wood on Instagram, Facebook, and Twitter. And until next time, wish me love. Hello again, my lovely listeners. Thank you so much for tuning in to today's episode of DRL. If you like the show, be sure to go on iTunes and leave a rating and also write a review. And don't forget to share with your friends and tell them all about DRL. Thank you so much for supporting.